Well, I know that most of the people in the metropolitan area have no earthly idea what's going on in the farm, and that you can't educate all of them. There's no way you can do it. Get out and see what's going on. If they have to stand in line, like the people in Poland, to get their food, it's too late. I think there's big problems all the way up the line, and what worries me is they're not getting any better, they're multiplied. Now, how are you going to solve them? I do not know. I don't think anybody else knows, but I don't think anybody's really making an effort to try to solve them. They're more interested in building an atomic bomb or a battleship or something that doesn't pertain to the livelihood of the American people.
Bends not his ear to any bell which upon any occasion rings. But who can remove it from that bell which is passing a piece of himself out of this world? No man is an island, entire of itself. Every man is a piece continent, a part of the main. Therefore, never send to know for whom the bell tolls. It tolls for thee. This place is in Hale County, Alabama, prime farmland bordering on the Black Belt. These fields were carved from the hardwood forests that once covered the region. Long before the union of the states, before the settlers came, before cotton grew, this land provided. Indians thrived here and grew crops, beginning the long green farming history of the place. When they departed, they took nothing with them and left very little behind. The land and the water remained, with Indian names their only heritage. Generations of people have lived here and farmed this land. The planters lived here, the herdsmen, the self-sufficient farmers of the antebellum period lived here, and later the tenant farmers. Of the children of the past farming generations, few stayed to work this land, and those who did are living a small variety of rapidly dying dreams. These are children.
Used to, when I first started farming, I was farming with mules, with ton plows, and now you got tractors and You don't walk and do nothing hardly, but get off the tractor and go home and get to dinner. You don't walk no more farming. You do it all by machine and gather crop the same way. Pulling corn the same way. You got machine and pull corn. All of it is something looked like way back when I first started off, looked like a dream now.
Sure, I lived in days when they had the old horse and buggy. And then I remember when we had about the first planes that would fly, when everybody went out and jump up on the fence to see what was passing over. And since that time, we've gone all the way. Everything's changed. We've gone from the mule to the implement.
When I was a young boy, from the early 30s through World War II, farming was a different era altogether from what it is now. We had several different types of farm sizes of farms in this area at that time. We had some large landowners, and then you had medium-sized landowners, and then you had small landowners with 40 acre land or less. There was a lot of hand labor involved, and most of the work was by mules. There were a few tractors in that time, but not too many.
I went to steel mill, worked there, and after then I went to the Army. And I was so glad to get out the Army and home, and I came home with my father, and we started farming. Mm-hmm. Some days, years we put it good, and some years, but we made it pretty fair. My daddy before me, he always looked out for us. We were able to buy some land, you know, have a little some work, some place to work.
Your father, what was that transition? What was the change like from what he saw when he started to what you saw when you started?
Well, that'd be difficult for me to answer, I guess. Of course, I'm sure that when he started, the excitement and the challenge was not there, and he probably looked at it from a relatively small scale of working 25 or 30 acres with 2 mules. And when we came, the mechanization thing had come along. Tractors were here, and we could just foresee that we could just farm the world. So I think it was much more exciting concept than what he might have had when he was working. I suppose, too, by that time, maybe that we had gotten to the thinking in terms that a farmer could make money back during the Depression. And when I was growing up as a kid, they just thought, well, that's just the way to survive, and that's about all you can ever do. You never can accumulate anything. But then begin to think that if we're smart enough and work hard enough, that we can make money and accumulate things, too. So.
The W.J. Chandler and Son Farm is one of the largest farms in Hale County. Buster and Billy Chandler and their father Walter have spent their lives making it so. But these are not the best of times in agriculture, and all of their work has not been able to maintain the success they once enjoyed. The Chandlers are an economic pillar of their community. Buster is one of the prominent businessmen in Hale County and the mayor of his town.
Well, in our particular case, we think that we are about as diversified as a farm operation could get, and up, well, even through now, that's supposed to be the magic word. If you're diversified, then you've got a better chance of making money than you have if you stick to one crop. I'm of the opinion now that maybe that's the wrong way to do it. Sometimes if you diversify and you grow a number of crops, that one of them is going to fail every year. So you're not going to ever have a real good year, and if you concentrated on one crop, you might lose it all one year, but you'd make it next year. But at any rate, we've got a dairy operation, and we've got a beef cattle operation, and we operate a feed mill and a cotton gin and a fertilizer business. And I was talking to my wife last night, and I said, well, if things were going like they should be going with the amount of money that we've got invested, the amount of money that we spend to operate, that we ought to net $50,000 off the gin and feed mill operation. We ought to net $50,000 off of the dairy operation, and we ought to net $150,000 or better off 2,000 acres of row crop. So that if those kind of profits were available, we could make money. But as it is, we're not making money on any of them because of high production. Dairy prices are good, milk prices are excellent, but our production costs run so high so we're still not making any money there. Trouble? Young farmer today is just behind the 8 ball as far as being able to get into farming for a number of reasons. It's difficult for him to buy land in the first place because he can't finance land and pay for it. His debt service gets too high, but it's so awfully expensive now to buy equipment, the tractors and the various related pieces of equipment he'd have to have. It's just young farmers, unless he has some kind of inheritance or something to give him some kind of base to operate from. Can't go out and just walk up to a tractor dealer and buy a $50,000 tractor. I think that in Buster Hartley's case, the young man that we know here, he may be gaining a foothold by some method, but those people are few and far between because they can't get the financing to get started.
I started on my own about 5 years ago. I was raised on a farm, and when I finished high school, I worked in a factory about 6 years, and the factory closed down, and I got another job, worked a year and a half, and they laid off a bunch of people, so I decided to go into farming on my own. Well, I worked for another fella for a couple of years, helped him farm, got a little experience of the modern experience, because it had been about 12, 15 years since I had farmed, and so I worked with him a couple of years. Then I started on my own, started out kind of small, and kind of worked my way up from there. And like I said, I've been in it about 4 years now on my own, and kind of increasing a little bit every year. But after this year, well, after last year, I'm not going to raise any more beans. I'm just going to food with cattle. That's all I'm going to food with, because I can't make any money fooding with beans. And so far I have made a little food with cattle.